The scripture today is Genesis 2:4b to 15, the Inclusive Bible. At the time when God made the heavens and earth, there was still no wild bush on the earth, nor had any wild plant sprung up, for God had not yet sent rain to the earth, and there was no human being to till the soil. Instead, a flood of water would well up from the ground and irrigate the soil. So God fashioned the earth creature out of the clay of the earth and blew into its nostrils the breath of life, and the earth creature became a living being. God planted a garden to the east in Eden, land of pleasure, and placed in it the earth creature that had been made. Then God caused every kind of tree, enticing to look at and good to eat, to spring from the soil. In the center of the garden was the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river flows through Eden to water the garden, after which it branches into 4 tributaries. The first stream is named Pishon, or Spreader. It circles through Havilah, a land rich in gold of the highest quality. There are gum resins there and precious onyx stories. The second stream is named Gihon, or Gusher, and it flows through the entire land of Cush. The third stream is the Tigris, which borders Assyria on the east. The fourth stream, the Euphrates. Then God took the earth creature and settled it in the Garden of Eden, so it might cultivate and care for the land.
Thank you, Nancy. We have a poem from Reverend Sarah R. from the Sanctified Art called "We Are Not Strangers." If you ask me where I'm from, I'll tell you about the South, about sweet tea, church pews, slow drawls, sultry summers. And if you pause, then I may go on to tell you how I'm from a family of preachers, how I stand on the shoulders of generations who believed that love could be the answer. And if you are still listening even then, I'll tell you that I'm from strong women with tall spines who have carried the weight of inequality on their backs with children on their laps. And then I'll tell you about the kitchens that I'm from. We have always cooked enough food for unexpected guests, just in case. Or I could tell you about the car that carried us into the mountains summer after summer so that we could breathe again. That's part of where I'm from. And if you haven't given up on me yet, then I might even mention the dirt. The earth catches me, the earth holds me, the earth that reminds me of growth, the earth that will eventually welcome me home. You and I aren't really strangers after all. Will you join me in prayer? Holy God, I don't always know what to pray for, but you find me anyway. I don't always know how to listen, but you are in my ears all the same. I don't always know how to believe, but you surround me with beauty, and I find myself held together in love. Where I come from, there are so many distractions. Where I come from, there is so much noise. Find me, hold me, be in these words. Help me hear, help us hear. May the words from my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts bring comfort to those who seek it and conviction to those who need it. And may these things be pleasing unto you. Amen. So in Genesis, we know that there are 2 creation stories. In Genesis 1, after creating heaven and earth, God creates plants and then animals, and then simultaneously creates man and woman. In this version that we heard today, Genesis 2, after creating heaven and earth with the water bubbling up, God first creates Adam, which actually translates to ground creature or earthling. Not man, as we all come to expect, but ground creature or earthling. So perhaps we might rethink of Adam as an androgynous, genderqueer, non-binary creature. I know it's a lot to take in. But If God has created us in God's image, like God, who is transcendent and the embodiment of all gender, so would be the creature. So a human, then plants, then animals, and later God divides the ground creature into female and male. God created the creature, from the one came two. And in this version we also read about the river that flows through Eden and the 4 resulting tributaries. In the Jewish Heritage online magazine, Nahum Sarna writes, "Somewhere beyond the confines of the garden, the single river separates into 4 branches that probably represent the 4 quarters of the inhabited world." In other words, the river of Eden also nourishes the rest of the world with its life-giving waters. The inclusion of these rivers gives us a sense of geographic location and importance. The important rivers of the known world come from one source: paradise. And in our faith journeys, we all come from different places, and we have had different experiences. As we say at PSR, it was called social location. These things that shape the lens through which we see the world and read the Bible. And it is from these places that we move into our becoming who we've yet to be, as we have new experiences that we add to the old experiences. We are growing. We are becoming and moving toward the realm of God, returning to paradise, bringing paradise to earth. So let's watch this video.
What do you mean no?
It worked yesterday. Here we go.
Growing pains.
New computer.
Hi everybody, my name is Raj Nadula and I teach New Testament at Columbia Theological Seminary. Where are you from? Great question. Let me begin on a personal note by saying that I came to the US from India more than 20 years ago. You won't be surprised to hear that during these 20 plus years, I've been asked the question, where are you from? Numerous times in a variety of settings, coffee shops, shopping malls, seminaries, and so on. Interestingly though, I used to be asked this question back in India as well. After high school, I moved to a different state to pursue my education. In India, moving to a different state meant living among people who spoke a different language, ate slightly different food, and even looked a bit different. And so, at times when I was out and about, people would ask me this question, where are you from? Without a doubt, I've been asked this question way more times in the last 20 years than before that. I've always had this urge to respond to such questions by asking them a question. Where are you coming from? I've always been curious about why someone might be curious about me. Are they asking me questions in order to connect with me on a deeper level? Or are they trying to treat me as an outsider? What do they hope to do with the knowledge that they acquire about me? Will they use it as the foundation to build common mutual spaces? Or will they use it to exclude me? Put me in a box? Why you ask is important. How you ask is equally important. The English word curiosity has the connotation of nosiness, intrusiveness, but the Latin root, curiosus, means diligence, careful, and the related Latin word cura means care. Curiosity then is about asking questions with care and diligence. When I ask someone questions about them with care and respect for the person and for the relationship, I will end up learning a great deal about them. More importantly, I will also unlearn some of the assumptions I might have had about them. Remember the story of Jesus, Philip, and Nathanael? Philip had met Jesus and was absolutely excited about introducing him to Nathanael. Nathanael's first response was, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip says, "Come and see." And Nathanael did. And Nathanael, when he spent time with Jesus, he was absolutely blown away by what he had learned about Jesus and Nazareth. Well, the point of the story is more that Nathanael was blown away by what he had unlearned about Jesus and Nazareth. Curiosity is about being willing to learn and unlearn and engaging the other with respect and care for the relationship. Who gets to ask the question is important as well. If I get to ask you where you are from and you don't get to ask me the same question, it somehow suggests that I am the host and you are the outsider. Curiosity needs to be a two-way street. Just as we want to enter the spaces of the other, we should be willing to invite them into our spaces as well. Because on this two-way street called curiosity, we're both guests and hosts simultaneously. We're both subjects and objects of healthy curiosity. Where are you from? I was at a conference at the beginning of last year before COVID, and this fellow scholar came up to me and asked me with all this politeness and respect, and he asked me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I am from many places." You should have seen that puzzled look on his face. Obviously, I've lived in different parts of the world, but that's not what I was talking about. I am using the term place metaphorically. Each of the places that I have lived in has experiences and stories associated with them. And it is these stories and experiences that make me who I am. And I am a sum of all these stories and experiences, and I cannot be reduced to any one of them. So if you really want to know where I am from, you should get to hear all these stories and experiences associated with these places. I hope that you will continue to ask me where I am from. I hope that you will take the time to learn about all the places that I am from. And I also hope that you will be willing to unlearn any assumptions about me if needed. More importantly, I hope that you will tell me about all the places that you have been to. Thank you so much.
So here we are in a community that strives to be beloved community, an open and affirming community where we welcome all. Some have been here since God created the world. Others of us have arrived recently, and some are still yet to come. I wasn't looking specifically at you, Ed. I was just doing the room span. Ooh. And if you remember, if you recall in the newsletter for the last, 6 months or so, or a little bit longer, we've had the Congregational Confidential, which has been 4 questions that we have put out. And if you haven't answered it yet, I invite you to ask to participate. And they are, where were you raised? Right? Is that Nancy? Help me. Where were you raised? What was the church of your faith tradition as you grew up? What brought you to Island United? And what are your hopes for Island United? So that's an ongoing series. So please, I know that Jan has done it, and Brent has done it, and Erlene has done it, and Peg has done it, and
Alexis.
Paul has done it, and Brian has done it. Alexis has done it. Okay, that's where it stops. So please, 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 that would be a lovely, it's very simple, it's very short, not long and expansive, just a beginning. So with that in mind, we are in a building of a community of inclusion that creates and celebrates common mutual spaces of care. You know, whether you're a long-term or short-term member of this community, we still can make assumptions about each other. And I'll tell you another story here. So MCC San Francisco, where I was for 25 years as a member and an associate, I took a risk on a Veterans Day, and we found a scripture that we asked the 3 people from the congregation who had served in, I think, 3 different wars or conflicts, and asked them to share the story and where they found God in all of this. One had been in Germany and was a code breaker. The other had been a medic in Vietnam. He was a conscientious objector, but he thought if he was going to have to serve, he would go as a medic. So he saw some pretty gruesome stuff. The other, who tried to get out, was a drag queen, really a drag queen at the old Finocchio's in San Francisco. By that point, they were so desperate to get people, he showed up and they still took him in. He ended up being the most decorated soldier in his battalion. So these 3 different men had 3 different experiences. And of course, you know, this is important in the queer community because there was, before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, they found out who you were, right? And even during the time. And so all the service you gave, you got no benefits, you got nothing. And plus, it's just imposing shame upon someone. So these 3 gentlemen, I call them gentlemen, get up and they share their stories. And then one of them comes up and he talked about how cathartic it was for him and how he didn't realize how much shame he carried for having been in Vietnam. But then he also said, but then I heard Lynn's story. I've been sitting next to Lynn for 35 years and I didn't know that about him. So that's what we're doing here. Whether or not you've been here since God created the world, or you're here now, or you're coming in. We are in a process of learning and unlearning, and we are going to explore with questions and conversation over the next 9 weeks. So this week, we're going to give you an easy one, and I'm not going to ask you to find someone and go together. So I'm going to come around the room with the microphone. Simple questions. Where are you from, and what's a place that you love? And as you heard Raj was saying, you know, I'm from many places. We're going to keep it simple for this part of the exercise. And we're going to say, where are you from, so you can choose your place. And then, where's your favorite place to be? Now, talk about metaphorical. So I'll give you an example. I'm Michael. I was born in San Francisco. I was raised in Westboro, South San Francisco, San Mateo County. I used to tell people I'm from the Pleiades. But I also come from a place of love. My favorite places? Well, actually, Lake Tahoe, and also Lucca, Italy. So that's all we have to do. Okay? So this is just putting your toe in the water. I don't want to scare you right off the bat. Where do we have that microphone that I can bring around? Ed has it. Okay. Because I know Larry is very bold. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Where are you from, and what's the place that you love?
Fabulous. I'm Larry, as you all know. Thank you, Pastor, for that introduction. Originally from the Philippines, but grew up here. Also, weirdly enough, in South San Francisco. Attended all South San Francisco High School and college as well. Go Warriors, right? And place that I love, believe it or not, you guys, I took up a sport called ice skating when I was 12 years old, and I fell in love with it. And once in a while, I'm not a competitive ice skater, but I like to glide, and I usually use it for exercise too. So, okay, I know it.
That's great. Thank you, Larry. Ed, it's okay, Ed. You're like, oh, come on, Ed. Bring us in.
My first 30 years, I was in Midwest in Ohio, and then we moved out here, and so I'm from Foster City.
And what's your favorite place? Or a place that you love, a place that you love?
My place that I love, I would have to say Maui.
Maui, okay.
Jan and I went there in our early years and on a holiday sponsored by United Airlines. I turned in my mileage, and we went to Hawaii.
Okay, lovely. You know, one of the places I like to also love to be is in my bed. Okay.
I grew up in Ohio.
15 miles away from.
Sorry, I'm trying
No,
to
sorry,
mouthing it.
I'll go ahead.
Interleave.
So I grew up in Ohio, about 30 miles from Ed and Jan, but I didn't know that. And then I went to school in Evanston, Illinois at Northwestern, and then I moved to Portland, where I lived for 10 years, and moved down here in 1986. And places that I love include Glacier National Park and Venice.
Thank you. Okay, would Randy or Mr. Stewart like to unmute and speak into the room and tell us where are you from? What's a place that you love?
Go ahead, Randy.
You have to unmute.
Unmute.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi. Let me turn off the sound so I don't get feedback on my audio. Hi, I'm Randy, and I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona before relocating to Seattle after I married Anne, or just before I married Anne, actually. And so a lot of places go through my mind. I think my favorite place to be is near water and family. So whenever I'm with my children or Mama Lee down there with you all, I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, well, since we had Randy, let's go to Anne.
Hi, sweetheart. I am from Chapel Hill and Moraga and unfortunately Laramie, too cold for me, and San Francisco and Stuttgart and Seattle. So I've lived a lot of places. And my two favorite places, one is New Orleans. We've spent 3 vacations in New Orleans, and Randy says I'm eating my way across the city. And my other favorite place is in my mother's sunroom with all the windows looking at the lagoon with my mother and Randy and my little poodle, Bo.
Hi, Bo. Hi,
You can
Bo.
pet him, he's totally friendly.
Okay, well, so thank you, Anne. So the next progression is to Lee.
Born and raised in Charlotte, went to school in Chapel Hill. Moved to California, when Ann was 6 weeks old. And,
Swallow the mic.
yeah, and came to Foster City in '99. I think physically my favorite place is Foster City. And otherwise, my family is my other favorite place.
Yeah, thank you. Why don't you pass it on to Jan?
I was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then met my husband in Ohio when we moved there in high school. And then we moved out here to California. And I thought California was the most wonderful place in the world.
Well, it is.
You know, there's no snow, San Francisco is incredible. But then we went to Hawaii, and Hawaii is my favorite place.
Well, okay. Well, I always tell people, if you don't like the weather in San Francisco, you can go 10 minutes either direction and it changes. Or actually within the city, it changes 20 microclimates. Why don't we have a word from Daryl?
Hello. I'd say that I'm from San Mateo County, and what is a place I love? Odd answer. I'd say Pacifica. There's something about Pacifica that just keeps drawing me back, even though there's very little to actually do out there. There's just something about it.
There's a nice Taco Bell.
Well, it's the water.
Wait, not that Pacifica, the other Pacifica, the one that's north, not the Taco Bell bit of it.
There's two Pacificas?
Well, yeah, Pacifica is kind of split between two population centers, where there's one towards the south that is the Taco Bell and the strip malls and stuff, and then there's just this decaying hamlet towards the north with a pier that has the end of it's fallen into the ocean. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, Taco Bell's down in Lindemar, and then you've got the north part, which is with the Pacifica Pier and where we have what they call Oceana area.
Yeah.
See, I just learned something.
We beat Oceana in no, anyway. Paul.
Good morning. Grew up in southeast Pennsylvania, and actually when I was leaving college, said there were two places. I'd go any place but two places. One was California, the other was Florida. I spent 2 years in Florida and then moved to California and been here ever since. So that shows you, all your plans just go up in smoke. Interestingly, the place that I love is I lived in Texas for a while in Austin, and I used to golf in a former life. And there was a green on the top of a hill that was just isolated, and around you was the lake and the hill country, and you just felt like you were in heaven. I mean, it was the most gorgeous place. I still can picture it in my mind. So,
thank you, Paul. Nancy.
When I moved to California in 1982, I got asked, where are you from a lot? And I told them I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, and then later lived in upstate New York. And when I was traveling for work, I told everybody I was in San Francisco because I thought it sounded so cool, and it was true. That's where I lived. I did get comments on that from various people, not always positive. One of my favorite places is over on the coast, near Pillar Point Lighthouse. It has this beautiful Fresnel lens and the pelicans going over and the waves coming in and the various creatures, and I think it's just beautiful.
Thank you, Nancy. You can pass it on to Andrew. And of course, San Francisco and California, the land of fruits and nuts, is the usual thing we hear from anybody else. Jealousy just is so ugly.
Okay, so my name's Andra, and I grew up in the Portland metropolitan area and have lived in the Bay Area for most of my adult life. And my favorite places are any Disney park, mountains near lakes or rivers, and under any shade tree.
Thank you, thank you. And when she says that about Disney parks, she's not kidding. Mr. Stewart, would you like to unmute and talk to us? You've told us a few stories, but I'm sure there's something we haven't heard.
Well, I think you all have been enjoying hearing comments. I'm from Tennessee. I was from inland, so I moved to California in 1961, and I have enjoyed the water. I'm a water person, and I enjoyed the peninsula, the ocean in San Francisco, and I especially enjoyed Foster City where I can have both the bay view and the inland view. So I'm enjoying things.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds like we got a lot of water people in the room. Carolyn, who's been all over the country.
Yes, I'm Carolyn. I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas. My father was a staff sergeant in the Army, so we traveled every 3 months or whatever you say to different places. So I'm from many places. We came to California when I was 11, so I have been in California since then. However, I do a lot of traveling. I just traveled 14,074.2 miles since April 29th. Having lots of fun, all by myself.
Yeah.
My favorite place is traveling.
On the road.
On the road. So I enjoy that, and I enjoy meeting new people, seeing old friends, and not old, but friends that are always there for you. So, and I really enjoy too coming here when I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Nomadic tribes person here.
I grew up in New York City, in
Tim.
Queens. Tim, yeah. That's right.
I'll yell out. Tim.
Grew up in New York City and Queens. I attended Catholic grammar school, and then went to college out west, out here, and went up to Seattle for 3.5 years, and then came back to San Francisco. I'd say my favorite places are always, wherever my loved ones are, and my friends. But if I had to pick specific places, physical place, I just love San Francisco and the coast. And it's, even when we go visit places, we always end up saying, gee, we live in a really great place. So we feel very fortunate. So.
Yeah, I hear you. I know that whenever I travel and on the airplane descending into the airport, I'm like, it's like you get this special wave of love that rolls over you. And if you remember Tales of the City, Mrs. Madrigal said that we were the lost land of Atlantis, the Lemurians. Ro.
I was born in Bellows Falls, Vermont, and being a precocious teenager, when we moved to New Hampshire, then we would call it Fellows Falls. And grew up in New Hampshire, Vermont. We had a summer home. That was my mother's home. That was my ancestors' home from the 1700s. Wow. And so we just did that up and down the Connecticut River. I grew up thinking states were surrounded by water, because that's what New Hampshire and Vermont were, and that's all I knew. Big surprise when I came to California. And my favorite places to be is nature. Yeah, I like to have water as part of the nature, but it's not a prerequisite. And as Tim mentioned, almost every weekend when we explore the Bay Area, we just look at each other and say, aren't we lucky?
Yeah.
When people say, where would you want to be if you weren't in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's got to be in the 70s, no bugs, no humidity, and not surrounded by poisonous creatures. And it's like, I'm here.
Yeah, you are. Now, Doris, please hold it right into your mask and yell at us so we can hear you.
My name is Doris Chu. I was born and raised in Stockton, California. As a girl, the only place I've been was church conference in Lake Tahoe and San Francisco. But since married life, we moved every 6 months for the first 3 years. Wow. And then after we retired, we've been doing a lot of cruising. And I think we've been on 150 cruises so far.
Wow. She likes to be on cruise ships.
And my favorite place is Barcelona.
Barcelona. Oh, okay. Helen.
I'm Helen. I'm a product of the Midwest. Born near Chicago, and we lived in that area until I was 10. And then we moved to western Wisconsin, not far from the Mississippi River. And that was quite a rural area, beautiful, coulee region, we called it. So I finished high school and went to state college there. And because I was a teacher, I had a certain amount of freedom, because teachers were needed everywhere. So I taught in Wisconsin a couple of years, taught in Sioux City 1 year. That was the coldest winter. Never want to do that again. And then I fled to Southern California, which put me in a category of, I don't know what to call it, but there's a certain attitude, I think among my family members and friends, that I'm probably not like them anymore. Because I went to Southern California and met surfers and, things like that. Been around a long time. So anyway, I moved up here to teach at Mills High School, and that's where I met my future husband. We moved to Foster City. We continued teaching. We moved to Foster City in 1966. And so I've been here many years in the same place and have seen many, many changes. Favorite places? That's kind of hard. Someplace where there's water, like Grant Lake, Wisconsin, where my niece and her family are, and where we spent some family time. And Foster City is a good place to be. So.
Chico.
Hi, I was born and raised in northern island of Japan. And I travel many places, and many places I love to visit. But I've been here from 75, and I'm right in Foster City. I never moved, and I don't think I would like to go back to Japan and live. So I think my favorite place is here.
So it's a great place to be from, a nice place to visit. Yeah? And Brent, yes. Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Do you want to yell from there? Can we pick you up?
I'm readjusting cameras. So hold on. There we go. How do you get the focus?
Bring us home.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brent, and I am originally from Connecticut, Mystic, Connecticut. So if you've ever heard of the movie Mystic Pizza, that's my town right there that Julia Roberts is tramping around. So I used to live actually right next to that bridge that goes up and down in the movie. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. I lived in Connecticut, Virginia, South Carolina. South Carolina was really tough as a gay man, as a young guy who thought who knew he was gay but wasn't accepted at all. It was not a great place, but it's also kind of some of my favorite memories are from South Carolina. Some of my only memories of my childhood. And then where am I from? I mean, now I feel like San Francisco, or I mean, I feel like where I'm from now is San Francisco. I feel like this is home. The Bay Area. When I was a kid, because we moved around a lot. We had family in Connecticut, and so we would actually drive 18 hours from South Carolina to Connecticut straight to visit family. So when I moved here, I didn't have the understanding that a single state could be as ridiculously huge as California is.
Yeah.
So like my friends were like, that I just met at work were like, hey, what do you want to do this weekend? Let's go do something. We're gonna go get out of town. I was like, cool, let's go to LA. And they were like, what? I was like, well, I've never been to LA. That sounds fun. And they're like, that's a really long drive. I was like, what? No, it can't be. It's in state. We went to Monterey instead for the aquarium. They were like, that's as far as we're going. My favorite place would be the Academy of Sciences. I absolutely love that place. There's an octopus that I have a relationship with. Weirdly, like, it knows me, like it recognizes me. It gets very like excited. Not like that. It's not. Y'all are dirty. Y'all are dirty. No. It's a very nice octopus, and it doesn't usually come out during the day, but like when it sees me, it gets excited. So like it's probably not even there anymore. I haven't been since the thing, but yeah. Anyway, really long. That's me. Bye.
Well, thank you. Welcome to my life, people. So, we talk about God being relational. And if we are the images of God, then we are meant to be relational. We give and we receive. And next week we're going to pair up and have some more intimate conversations. And I'm going to say, be curious, handle with care. Luke 6:38 says, give and it will be given unto you, a full measure, packed down, shaken together, and running over. It will be poured into your lap, for the amount you measure out is the amount you will be given back. So let's be generous and not stingy with each other as we go through this journey for the next several weeks. Let's be adventurous. Amen.
Amen.